Not a bad day at the racetrack. Kansas Speedway. Toto! Oh, those red ruby slippers must have helped us out. Mark Martin, 7 poles this year now. Best year in his career for winning poles. Pretty good year for winning races. 5 races. Was on the pole for Sunday's Kansas 400. Just edged teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. Remember him? Mark was happy. Of course he's happy. He's leading the points on the pole for the 3rd race of the chase. Can't beat that with a stick. But Junior, he seemed melancholy. I think Rick Hendrick, the car owner, has told him might be some changes next year. And Dale's worked real hard with crew chief Lance McGrew this year since they did the change back in May. But he seems resigned to maybe some new faces working with him next year. We'll have to see how that works out. Right now it's Mark Martin leading the points. Jimmie Johnson, second by 10 points, and everybody else trying to play catch-up. And Kurt Busch really has to play catch-up on Sunday, starting way deep in the field. Ryan Newman didn't look too good either. Tony Stewart looks good. Might be a good pick to win the race. Big story, Joey Logano's crash. Oh, they're still talking about that barrel roll. Talked to Greg Zipadelli, his crew chief, and talked to Joey. Well, nothing wrong with the car. Just a bunch of guys running into each other. But that, coupled with the NFL report about concussions and dementia and questions about how many concussions does it take to really scramble your brains 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, we talked to Jeff Gordon about that a little bit too. He was a little concerned. He's taking some hard hits. You can check that out on MikeMulhern'sNASCAR. Did a story on that. The other big story, NASCAR. They didn't like what they saw on the 5 car and the 48 car, on Mark Martin's car at Dover after the race, and Jimmie Johnson's car after the race. John Darby, the NASCAR Cup Tour inspector, insisted the cars were legal, just real close to the tolerances. A lot of guys in the garage area are a little skeptical about that. You know how post-race inspections go. I think it was a couple years ago that Jimmie won the race at Dover in the chase in the fall, and he had some trick shocks that didn't work out just quite right. They let that slide. Are they letting something else slide right now? Some guys in the garage area want a little more proof than what NASCAR has given them so far. And I understand there's some questions inside NASCAR headquarters about how to play this whole thing. After all, Mark Martin and Jimmie Johnson are 1-2. And if there are questions about those 2 guys' cars, well, you got to think about the chase and what it really means. TV ratings are down, and now there's some questions. Hey, I don't know. We'll have to see. But George Gillette, he says he's going to show up here tomorrow. We'll have to see if he shows up. He's been hanging around with those Saudi princes. Have you ever had dinner with a trillionaire? Not a billionaire, a trillionaire. This guy owns a lot of oil over there. Well, they might as well be pouring some in the NASCAR. We'll have to see if George can give us some answers or if he's just going to show up and talk. Richard Petty doesn't seem to know much about what's going on. Nobody on the team seems to know much about what's going on. It has to do with hundreds of millions of dollars. Liverpool Soccer and the Montreal Canadiens, and oh, by the way, he's got a NASCAR team too that might be worth a couple of dollars here and there. Not sure where George is going. Not sure where George is coming from. We're going to ask him some questions. Chad Knaus, we asked him about his car at Dover. He says, you're making a tempest in a teapot. Maybe so. We talked to Alan Gustafson, Mark Martin's crew chief. He was really upset over the questions about his car. Takes away from all the hard work his guys have done this year, and they've done some really good work. But, hey, you don't win races by just being better than the guy next to you. You win races by having more tricks than the guy next to you. Maybe they're pushing it. Didn't really get a good feeling for what actually is going on, except that there's some questions, and I didn't get a lot of answers. But nobody tells me much, do they? One last thing, Goodyear. They're going to test that 17-inch tire finally. They finally found some guys to do it, Travis Quapple and Matt Kenseth, 2 Jack Roush guys in Jack Roush cars at Richmond next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, I think. 17-inch tires would be bigger, wider, work better on these cars tomorrow. Goodyear's been pushing for that for a couple of years now, and finally they get a test. Why it took so long for NASCAR to even look at it, I don't know. But from what I can find out, we'll never see a 17-inch tire on a car in NASCAR. It's all for show. Hey, that's what I'm hearing. Might be true, might not. We'll have to see how it plays out. Mike Mulhern Friday, Kansas Speedway, and Mark Martin is on the pole, number 7 this year, leading the points, leading the start of the race on Sunday. Mike Mulhern, MikeMulhern.net.